Coming up on today's show, we're going to cover the latest Disney news and rumors, and it's time for a revisit of Genie Plus and how to get the most out of it on your next trip. That's coming up today on Traveling with the Mouse. Welcome everyone to Traveling with the Mouse. This is episode 345, just counting up, just like we're counting up the money that Disney World made last quarter. We'll talk about that today. Today I am your host. I am Jason, and I am joined by two esteemed co-hosts. First, we have Adam.
What's up, everybody? Am I McSteamy again?
You're McSteamy every episode. That's really why the people tune in. Even though it's an audio-only podcast, they're just hoping maybe they'll get a glimpse of McSteamy.
Feel the steam.
They can feel the steam. They sure can. That was really what, whenever we did our challenges, people were just tuning in just for our videos to catch a glimpse of Adam. Sure. That's really what it was. Anyways, not McSteamy, but maybe McDreamy is John.
I know what I have to do, but I don't know if I have the strength to do it.
You mean not complain about Book of Boba Fett?
Well, you could say that.
Yeah.
Just saying.
I think it's great, by the way.
Just saying.
The Book of Boba Fett, I just thought that was just Mandalorian season 2.5 or something. But whatever.
Kind of what it turned into.
Are they just going to replay those episodes whenever they start Mandalorian Season 3 in case people didn't watch Book of Boba Fett? Or is this just turning into the new Marvel stuff where if you haven't seen one, too bad, so sad?
As I said before we started, I don't think I've ever seen a title character or a series in which the title character was the least interesting character or one of the least interesting characters.
It just feels like if you just stamped out 1 million of them, just cloning people left and right.
It's almost like he's just one in 1 million clones.
Yeah.
Did that ruin Boba Fett, though, when you found out via the prequels that he's a clone? Didn't bother you? Because, they're just continuing that.
Did it ruin it for me? No, not really. It didn't. They kind of explain, at least in the prequels, why he became what he became, by the sense that he watched his father die or get killed.
I don't know. I like the Tusken Raider thing, and I thought it was good. I like that season 2 of Mandalorian, that was part of the story as well, and they brought it in. They brought it all together. It was like a good story.
You like the Tusken Raider thing? Which part? The part where they've been exterminated?
They weren't. That's not necessarily the entire. Although Anakin pretty much took him out too, but.
Well, that's what I was about to say. How did they even exist? How did they even exist since Anakin said he killed all of them?
I think there's multiple different tribes of Tusken Raiders, but anyway, I don't know the details of that. But it's actually a story that takes place over 2 seasons of 2 different shows. But it gels together so well that it's surprising that it's actually Star Wars and a story that came together in a way over multiple, seasons of a show that made better sense than all the movies that the sequel trilogy was.
And then the next season in one of these, they'll bring in a slightly new director, and all of a sudden we'll have Emperor Palpatine back. And
do not bring Rian Johnson or J.J. Abrams into any of the Disney Plus stuff. That's all I gotta say.
Speaking of which, since you brought it up, I actually decided to watch. Well, I haven't quite finished it actually. I decided to watch Rise of Skywalker for only the second time.
Right.
Ever.
I thought about it. It's been on TV. I thought about watching it.
Wow, that's been that long, huh?
Yeah, it's on like TNT or something.
Well,
or whatever it is.
What I noticed, I looked it up. Did you know that of the, I guess you could call it second trilogy. What do we call these?
Sequel trilogy.
Yeah, sequel trilogy. Of the sequel trilogy movies that on Rotten Tomatoes, it's actually ranked the highest is Rise of Skywalker. And by that, I mean by the fans.
That's just wrong.
Well, the highest of the three, just barely though. It's just barely ahead of Force Awakens.
Yeah, Force Awakens is good. And even Last Jedi is good if you... I don't know. It's okay if you... I don't know. There's parts of it that are good. I'm conflicted on
After
that one.
seeing all three, I like The Last Jedi. It actually was going somewhere different and interesting that wasn't just like bring back the bad guy from the last movie.
Yeah.
Few movies. Like the last one was just like, well, we built up this other bad guys and this whole thing, but forget all about that. Remember the Emperor? He was bad, right? Let's bring him back. That just didn't work.
Wasn't great.
The only thing I think ranked lower among the fan base than Last Jedi now on there is Clone Wars, the movie.
Oh, right. Oof. That must have been bad.
That's the only thing that's ranked lower than Last Jedi according to the fan voting.
Also known as Whiny Anakin.
Yeah. But I know what will rank really high. Should we break that story about what's coming May 25th?
What is coming May 25th? This is your story to share, Adam.
What's going to break the internet on May 25th? And that is the Obiwan series debuting on Disney Plus May 25th.
Who's responsible for this series?
I assume it's...
Like who's going to be directing it?
I hope
Favreau?
it's Filoni and Jon Favreau again. But I'm not sure. I assume that's who it is.
The Obiwan series featuring The Mandalorian.
Lord.
That's what I'm concerned about now.
Man, if yeah. Let me see. I'm going to look up the IMDb credits on it and see, just to make sure.
Somehow, even in the Obi-Wan story, somehow they're going to work Mando in and Grogu at this point.
Hey, whatever sells, right? Whatever works. Whatever gets more money into Chapek's pocket.
Oh yeah, no, don't spoil it. We're gonna
sorry.
really lay into Chapek today. It's gonna be fun.
Well, what I was just going to say from earlier is that I was enjoying, as far as like just taking it for what it was at the time, the Book of Boba Fett, and then I got the conclusion, and then I was like, yeah, okay. This was not, the conclusion.
Well, I haven't
it was
watched the conclusion
pretty
yet, but I'm
Yeah.
I'm now gonna go in with this, and I'm gonna see if I agree. Maybe next week I'll report back in.
For me, it was pretty good until the almost like what we'll call the jump the shark moment.
So was there an
Finger
actual
poking
shark,
dude.
and was Grogu jumping it?
There was a creature. No, it was being ridden. Anyway,
That's all you can give away. That's all you can give away.
that's all I care to give away at the moment. Yes, because I don't want to entirely ruin it for you. This is just my opinion, though. I admit to that, but I'm sure someone else out there probably shares it. But yeah,
Are you still talking about Boba Fett?
He
Yes.
is.
Oh,
Please
God.
save us with who's directing Obi-Wan.
So it's Deborah Chow. She's also directed episodes of Mandalorian. But I'm looking the writing
Somewhat
credits.
promising.
George Lucas is credited for 4 episodes, but it says based on characters created by for 4 episodes. Which I'm like, wouldn't that be all 6? Because he created Obi-Wan? But anyway,
wouldn't that be all of them?
that's what I would think, but I don't know.
Speaking of which, did you know that Anthony Daniels is the only actor that was in every last one of the movies?
Yes.
Okay.
I did know
The only one. Yeah.
Correct. He's even in Solo. He's in Rogue One, of course.
Yeah. In a way, he's kind of like the Ratzenberger of the Star Wars universe, I guess.
He's not in Mandalorian, is he?
Not so far.
So he's...
He has an opportunity to be.
Although
Just
it's
saying.
not a movie, so I guess his streak is still alive then.
Yeah. Unless they make a movie about the Mandalorian, then he's going to have to make a cameo.
All right. So on to the next thing, if you will.
The next big thing.
I don't see
next
Favreau
big thing.
or... Just saying, sorry, in Obi-Wan, I don't see Favreau or Filoni mentioned at all. But I do see Kathleen Kennedy, so just saying.
Oh well, then that's not boding well for you, Adam.
Yeah, I'm getting nervous.
Oh well. Well, let me talk a little bit before we talk about, I would say, our big news and then also our update on Genie Plus. I did have a few experiences with Disney World over the past week or so where I had to call in. And I just wanted to give an update on sort of how a few things are going in case people are interested. We know that they are not selling new annual passes, and mine were up for renewal. So as a new DVC member, I was curious if I could get the DVC rate, and I am pleased to say that I was able to upgrade for the upgrade price for a DVC Sorcerer's Pass, which now means I can no longer go at Thanksgiving or like the last 2 weeks of December. And it saved me a substantial amount of money to give up those options, which I'll happily take. So I was pretty happy with that. I was able to call in to the DVC member services line early on a Saturday and only have to wait 9 minutes. So not too bad.
Nice.
I wonder, I think the only slight disadvantage might be pass holder previews for stuff, but then as a DVC member, would you still get previews?
Well,
Because
remember
DVC
for Ratatouille, they did a DVC preview before they did the pass holder preview, right?
Right. That's what I was thinking. So I'm like, maybe it's not really at disadvantage at all having
Or are
that
they-
sorcerer pass.
Are we even sure they're going to continue to do pass holder previews?
That's a good point too. We don't know.
Here is my open question, and maybe I know we have some DVC members that listen to the show, but the first thing I want to test, which I think I can only do when I'm staying on DVC points, is can I forego the dining reservations to park at the Grand Floridian and the Contemporary because I can just show up and say, I'm here to go to the pool?
I'm here to pool hop.
Because that is also a perk that we could get to. The other personal news related to Disney is I am going with my more extended family. I wouldn't say extended family, but usually when I go, it's with my very direct family, my household, and then you, Adam. That's basically who I go with. I'm going with, my family, my parents and my sister and her husband, her kid. And so we're going in March. We are all booked. We had an old Key West 2-bedroom that we were all going to cram into, but it turns out we could get a little bit cheaper. Not everybody wanted to go the same number of nights. By all getting individual rooms at the Grand Destino Tower at Coronado Springs, standard view. Very happy, even though I'm a DVC member. Still a big fan of Coronado Springs. So I've got a Coronado Springs stay coming. And I talked to everybody, and I was like, there's no outer building for this family. We are doing Grand Destino.
Of course. Gotta do that.
And this is going to be cash then.
Yes, this was cash, so not DVC.
Literally cash. You just slid them an envelope of
It was.
$100
Yeah,
bills.
I mailed them pennies.
Oh, okay,
I just wanted to
that
make
makes
sure
sense.
because they do have that, what is it, that deluxe like selection, what do they call it? But it's usually not worth it to spend your points
Oh
on
yeah,
that.
you can trade your points in, and I mean,
Yeah.
no, it's like the Grand Destino Tower is 20 something, 30 points a night. It's a lot for a
Right.
studio.
I wouldn't think it would be worth it. So I just wanted to be clear that that's what took place though.
Oh yeah, I'm still not quite using my DVC membership. My first DVC stay will probably be in June.
I mean, while you're there, even though you're staying at Destino, can't you still use some of the DVC benefits maybe, like the lounges and stuff? I don't know.
You can try. I mean, they have the virtual member card. Technically, you're only able to use some of the DVC benefits. Well, you can use the member lounges, but I think you can only pool hop if you're staying on points. I don't know how they check that, honestly. I'll have to pay for parking at the resort because I won't be staying on points. When I do stay on points, I will not be paying for parking. So yeah, some exciting trips. John, I think you have a trip planned. When's your next trip upcoming?
Mine will also be in March. It will be at Pop Century. I got the 500 off the 5 nights, basically. It's March the 20th through the 25th. So I'm staying on the Skyliner, that's one of the things I like to do. So
Nice.
yeah, good stuff. Basically, there was what I think it was 3 of the nights was like roughly $200, and then the other was like $215 when it was all said and done. So that's not bad for that.
For a Pop Century, I just want to remind everybody that just 3 or 4 years ago, we were looking for, hey, we could get a deal under 100. So
Yeah, it's still not too bad, especially given I get Skyliner.
you get Skyliner.
I get Skyliner
Adam, I know that
for a premium.
I don't think you said you had any trips coming up, but I know you have a renewal deadline coming up. Do you plan to renew this year?
Yes. Although, yeah, we don't have any trips planned, so I don't know.
So your plan is to renew,
Even though
just
we're not
because you're not sure you have the option to buy it again at this
going.
point.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, exactly. I don't want to be buying tickets all the time. So
It depends on how you use it, really. I mean, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, for that period where I turned off my pass during COVID, and I was like, oh, I won't go, and then it ended up going. And I went a couple of times paying tickets, and it adds up real fast. You know, I, of course, am paying off the loan for DVC, but that's really paying for more than this year's of vacations. But the thing is after paying for my trip in March and getting my passes renewed, I have 4 trips on the books for the next 12 months, and it's all paid for already.
Yeah, that's nice. I do have to bring this up. Since we're all pass holders now, we're going to have to get together whenever Guardians has their preview, if they have one. We're going to have to do this as a group. Yeah. Is that going to be possible?
Well, it depends. Whenever the preview is, we just got to make sure we can get there.
Yeah, if they have a preview. Again, the last time that's been used was Ratatouille, and that was before...
No, that was COVID.
It was before
it was during it, but I was saying it was before they started doing they paused the sale of them again. So I don't know if what they're doing as far as that goes now. Who knows what they're going to do in the future? Boarding groups and everything else.
Why do we have to do pass holder preview, John? I mean, we're a big name podcast. Where's our invite, Bob? Where's our invite, Bob? I want the invite.
We should get one soon. I mean, we speak so well of him. He should give it to us personally.
Well, I'll just say, everybody has a price. Get us all the trip previews, and maybe, just maybe, we'll do a show where we'll stop saying your name. There you go. Right. That's the deal. I'm not going to say we're going to praise. We'll just not mention his name.
I thought you were going to offer him like a free Greenlight account or something at the firmament there. We were talking about that. But.
You could. What good would that do him?
I don't know. He might have kids. I don't know.
Teach him how to manage money? I don't know.
I think he knows that one.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if he knows how to manage it. He knows how to squeeze money out of people. That's
Bob
what he knows how to do.
Yeah, he doesn't say I'll take it. He just says I'll cut it.
Yeah.
That's what he does.
I'll cut it. Speaking of DVC, exciting news there is that they are starting to add some of the inventory out of the Big Pine Key building into the Grand Floridian DVC. So I'm assuming they're going to be selling these pretty soon. So there'll be more opportunity to buy at the Grand Floridian.
Are these all going to be studios?
Yes.
Okay, all studios.
So that leads me to a few of our stories. Actually, there's one more story before I go to basically the big story, which will be the shareholder meeting. And that is that we have a few Academy Award nominees coming out of Disney. Some nominations coming for Encanto, Luca, as well as Raya and the Last Dragon. Because nobody really expected We Don't Talk About Bruno to be the #1 song on the charts, that was not what was submitted for nomination. Instead, Dos Oruguitas was nominated for Best Original Song. Also a great song.
I think it will win. It's such an emotional song. I think it'll win.
Translated in English to Two Caterpillars.
Correct.
And it's a tragic, sad song. It's going to win. I think it will win. I mean,
that's the reason. That's the reason why.
It's a beautiful song, but I mean, it's the Academy Awards. They love tragedy, drama, anything sad. That's what always wins.
They love people attempting to slit their wrist. Okay.
I mean, look at what wins most of the time for Best Picture or all the.
I don't know. I haven't paid attention to that stuff in forever.
I'm just saying.
I mean,
most of the time it's like heavy drama.
However, since you brought up Encanto, did you see that where Bob Chapek cites that Encanto is proof that streaming is the future because it's the fastest title to meet 200 million hours on Disney Plus?
Yeah, so that is part of CEO Bob Robert, Dr. Evil Chapek. Bob Robert, Dr. Evil Chapek.
Right.
Coming out in the shareholder meeting, which was just chock full of some interesting tidbits, including saying that, he was right all along. We should be doing streaming.
I'm actually okay with that. I haven't been to the theater in quite some time anyway.
I love streaming. I just think it's an interesting strategy that he's like, see, I spent money on nothing else. I spent money only on this. There is literally nothing else to spend money on in this company. Why would we spend money?
Ugh, right.
Except
for the projects that were already underway at the parks. Let's just slow those down. and
Well,
stretch them out.
one thing I could say about the Encanto thing, it suffered a poor box office, but within days of its release of Disney Plus, it's basically trending worldwide. And I feel like a particular title that suffered at the box office, I say suffered as in it didn't make as good as it probably would have if it had been streaming, for instance, immediately, is Moana a few years back, because it became trending on Disney Plus when Disney Plus became a thing.
Right.
So,
It would have benefited from that big time, yeah.
Yep.
I mean, Encanto, the potential here is so big because, as I've heard some people talk about it, like Frozen had really good songs and a lot of staying power, but Encanto has a broader demographic base that it's reaching to.
Yeah.
Frozen skewed towards young girls, right? Encanto is on the Billboard hits. It's boys, girls, adults.
Everybody's singing
loves
it. Everybody in my house is singing it. Yeah.
Everybody's not talking about Bruno.
You should talk about Bruno.
Everybody is talking about not talking
about Bruno. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, the question is, how soon do we sort of see a cheap money grab in the parks related to Encanto, and how long after the craze is over do we see like a real tribute to it?
Where would you put it, though, other than maybe the Food and Wine Festival?
I've heard on another show discussions of there could be like something in Animal Kingdom. Maybe you could put a show in Animal Kingdom, like a temporary show in Animal Kingdom.
I guess. What animals, though, would you...
Does it matter about the animals? Just go use the demolished area, I guess, for Primeval World and put up a stage.
Put them in Dinoland.
You could have a rat show with Bruno.
Oh, brother. Yeah.
I mean, there's that, or how soon before they put him on a cavalcade? That's another thing.
Yeah, that they should at least do, right? Or make them part of Festival Fantasy Parade just coming
How
back.
to incorporate them in the parks is actually a pretty good question. It's going to require thought.
I mean, you could have a meet and greet, sort of.
Because, you couldn't really even do an attraction. What would you do? Are you going to build the house, maybe? Casita?
They wouldn't. It would take them
make it interactive?
I mean, it's going to take them 8 years to build a attraction, so no one's going to remember it by then, unless Encanto 2 comes out by then.
There's probably going to be a sequel.
They got to strike while the iron's hot.
I think it's kind of unfortunate, truthfully, that there's going to be a sequel, but because I feel like it's a good standalone movie. That's the way you operate nowadays.
Frozen 2 was a good sequel.
It was.
It was a very good sequel, yeah.
Yeah, it was good. But what I mean by that is there's some movies that do well with a sequel, but where does this story go from here? It feels complete, is my point.
Well, yeah, but if there's money to be had, it's not complete. It's not complete until every penny is squeezed out of it.
Yeah, this is the era we're in now.
But yeah, let's hit some of the big news here. Disney's revenue came in very high, over $1 billion higher than projections had. As we're recording this, it was the day that this happened, so we're in after hours trading and the stock is up. One of the things is that there were about 11.8 million subscribers to Disney Plus in Q1 2022.
Yeah.
So it's now almost to 130 million subscriptions, and the analyst expected they would only gain 7.3 million. So there you go.
Yeah.
Bob Chapek is the best CEO of all time, right? Based on this.
If you go by that.
If you go by that, I'll just go ahead and say that there are a lot of stories about this. There's a couple of Twitter accounts that I like to follow on earnings call days. Mickey Views is always a good one.
Yeah.
As well as Belle, it's at Phi, because she is always in the parks every day. So I always like following her because she's every day in the parks posting something. But she also gives like a live blog. So I might quote a little bit from her. One of the things she said early on is that Disney said that generally there are no more domestic parks COVID capacity restrictions. So there you go, John. They basically have lifted all capacity, which is why there's park passes available for every day.
It's interesting, though, because there's another story that says Disney Parks capacity remains limited due to the shortage of food, beverage, staff, and entertainment offerings. So
They're not capacity because of COVID. They're capacity because they don't want to pay people enough to work there. Basically.
Yeah.
And the other one that I thought was funny is that Chapek said, we don't want our guests to feel an excessive level of density when visiting the parks. As in, it shouldn't feel crowded.
Have you been to the parks, JP?
I don't quite get that.
This is what Belle wrote to this, and I'll quote her, and maybe she listens, maybe not, but it's funny. She said, "Are you kidding me? Let me take you to WDW, Mr. Chapek. I'll pay for your lunch. We are going to stand in the walkway between Peter Pan and It's a Small World."
Yeah, stand right there. Yeah, good point.
Depending on the time of day, that little section right there, right out in front of the riverboat.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Right.
Perhaps one of the biggest news coming out of it is that spending is up at the parks. Per capita guest spending is up 40% at the parks. And Disney attributes this to, quote, more favorable guests.
Whatever that means.
Meaning people with more money.
People with more money, and as a lot of the commentary is pointing out, everything they talked about today basically telegraphed, we don't want repeat business. We want to squeeze one-time guests for every penny they saved to come here and more.
Which is why they're not selling passes annual passes right now.
That's a short-term strategy, though, because you eventually need repeat business.
Yeah, which is, I mean, they'll have to undo this. I mean, this just, Chapek's strategies won't work in the long term. He can't be here forever. He'll get them what they need, though. I guess he'll get them the money they need to get out of this pandemic, and then they can bring in someone that can actually bring Disney back to being Disney.
I'm trying to figure out what that's supposed to mean. It says more favorable guest and ticket mix.
Day tickets.
Yeah, day tickets. It's people not buy on annual passes.
Yeah. So you're having to buy tickets, you're having to buy Genie Plus, you're having to buy all your food, you're having to buy the resort, pay for parking everywhere you go. Pay. That's what they want. Not buy a ticket once and then go a bunch of times and not pay every single time you show up.
Because the opinion is that pass holders aren't as profitable.
Right.
They are not as profitable per visit. And if you're,
sure.
And if you're trying to say for every party that walks through the door today, how much am I making? They're going to get way more per guest this way.
Again, short term.
Well,
maybe that is the strategy right now to get out of the COVID losses, try to recoup some of those losses. Because it was their best quarter almost ever was. Didn't I see that somewhere? It was like their second best quarter ever.
Yeah, something like that.
In projecting optimism about everything, Disney also said that they are, quote, pleased with the demand for the Star Wars Galactic Star Cruiser. Now, I'll point out that I called Disney twice over the last week, once to do my annual pass via DVC, and then I called them back later for the March trip as I was having trouble with family and friends because people were on there twice or not there at all. The lady was super helpful, by the way, when I finally got through. But they have it in the menu options, too. If you're calling about Galactic Star Cruiser, press 3. I'm like, nobody's calling about that. And they even have it on the DVC list. Like, it was way down the list, but they're like, if you're booking at a DVC resort, number 1. If you're booking at an international resort, 2. On premise, Galactic Star Cruiser. Like, who has enough DVC points to even get a sailing on that Galactic Star Cruiser? Remember that those points looked like?
Yeah, it was insane. And I saw more availability popped up this week too for the March.
Like the third sailing.
Yeah.
Or if you want to call it a sailing, the third cruise, whatever you want to call this.
Departure.
The third illusion. That's what we should call it.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Who knows?
But they're pleased with the demand because, they went from sold out to available. So that's being pleased with the demand.
Well, I mean, most of the first month will probably sell out by the time it gets to it.
Eventually. Still. But that's going to be true with all the months. I mean, let's be honest.
For a while. But
it just won't be sold out in advance like we originally thought, by the way.
Yeah. Well, I mean, All in all, though, it's a pretty positive. We probably aren't going to see Chapek go away because he is making the shareholders money. That is, unless this campaign online that's brewing, where Disney shareholders like you and I, that have just a few votes, are planning, and I've already cast my vote, to vote against Bob Chapek's re-election to the board of directors.
If I can remember my pin, I will also vote.
So he's up for re-election, and there's history here, right, where Eisner ended up getting like 40% no votes one time because there was a campaign, and then he was gone within 6 months. But I think people are really kidding themselves to think they're going to get rid of Chapek at this point.
Yeah, sure.
You know, I got to thinking, as far as being the CEO of Disney, just about everybody's held on just a little bit too long or done something to which it came tumultuous at some point, except for Iger. He like orchestrated his exit before that could happen.
Right.
Basically.
I think he saw COVID was going to be a huge thing, and he's like, I don't want this to be my exit. So he's
Possibly.
like, he gave it to Chapek.
Yeah, he'll never out and say that, but...
Right, but he turned it over to Chapek like February 2020, didn't he, or something? It was like
something like
it was
that.
like right in the middle of the like this is about to get bad. He was like, he's CEO now. Blame him for all the crap that's about to happen.
It's like, what is it, that point in one of the pirate movies, who the captain is, and they start pointing at...
Yeah. Right.
They pointed at Elizabeth? Yeah, it was in the last one, right?
Yeah.
She's captain. She's
Basically, yeah.
Before we get to the main point, though, I wanted to bring up is I want to give one more quote from Belle, Phi Belle Phi, that she said. Her observation was, when Chapek started talking about the domestic parks, she wrote, now that he's talking about the domestic parks, Chapek's pace of speech is faster and he sounds legit happy. He finally got to implement his paid fast pass after all this time. And that's the thing that everybody's talking about, is that Chapek celebrated that over the holidays, more than 50% of guests purchased Genie Plus and Lightning Lanes during the holidays.
Okay.
Doesn't mean they liked it.
I would like to point out, when you're there, you kind of get to a point where you feel almost obligated to do it to have a good time.
I mean, that's the point, is
Yes.
there's no way to protest this if you're going to Disney. If you want to,
Right.
like, I've set the expectation with my family because they don't go very often. We're going in March. They want to ride attractions. We're buying Genie Plus every day. We're going to have
that's
to.
the only option you have, right? If you're going to do it at all. Your only other option is just don't do it at all. And
Your only other option is go to rope drop and stand in line.
yeah, after that. But again, as I mentioned to you guys, because I did the survey after I got back, right? They gave it to me like about a week after I got back. And when it came down to the Disney Genie Plus part, they didn't ask my opinion of it. They just asked whether or not I used it.
Right.
And that was it. So if I used it, they're like, oh, right, good. That's a positive note for it. Nothing else.
Yeah.
Then ask how I felt about using it. It was just whether or not, the questions were based on whether or not I used it.
And they probably didn't give you much of a chance to type any kind of response. It was like check a box.
No, there was nothing.
Yeah.
You're not getting a true how to improve this or what do people really think of it just because they used it.
Right. They don't
You're not
want
really
it.
asking.
Which kind of makes me think, what is the actual cost of all this revenue that they've generated? There is a cost to it. What is the long-term cost going to be? People turning away? People getting frustrated? I mean, guest satisfaction? I wonder what that... Do they even care about that metric anymore? Probably not.
Well, here's the
Because they
thing.
want these one-time guests that come and go, and that's it.
I wouldn't even be surprised. I know this sounds crazy, since this is an initial launch of this, really. We're not even a year in, that the reaction to it amongst more guests is probably more positive than the initial FastPass when it was first released, to be quite honest with you. Because when FastPass was first released, you had to get up and do, all right, you're getting these 3 so many days in advance, and that's what everybody thought they had to do in order for the system to work. And initially, that is what they had to do. And and a lot of people were under the impression that their 3 was all they got, and that was it. When it was done, it was done. And a lot of people operated under that because no one ever said otherwise.
But even then, you did all that well before your trip. So by the time you got on your trip, it was done. You felt fine. And some people, I think, liked that system where they're like, okay, I'm going to plan my day around these 3. That's it. That's what I'll do. Whereas Genie Plus, who knows what you're getting?
Yeah.
Well, one thing I can say positive about Genie Plus is I like the fact that you don't get to do it as far in advance as you did FastPass Plus. What happens with that is it's a lot like dining. If you don't get it the moment it drops, you're pretty much not getting it for what time you want it, or at all in some cases. Until you get there, of course, as we knew later about how to work the system, but I'm talking about how it's laid out, right? You knew 90 days in advance, and the fact that it was free, though, some people were sucking these things up and end up not even using them necessarily. They probably didn't even go. They just wanted to hold it in case they did, if it were in the case of pass holders, for instance, right?
Right.
So these things were being sucked up by people that ended up either not using them or dropping them at some point, which people didn't know to check. So one thing paying for it does is it eliminates that crowd. Nobody is going to just pay for it on the chance that they're going. They know they're going the next day. So there is that to it.
Yeah.
So
you're forced to use it too if you buy it. I mean,
well, yeah, if you want
you're
to
gonna spend
not
money.
get a total waste.
So the people who buy it are using it, I would assume.
One would only hope. Either that or they're throwing their money away.
I mean, how much are they using it is the question.
Yeah.
Right.
It's going to be interesting going with my family who's had FastPass Plus but hasn't had Genie Plus before. And I think that's really where the downside's going to come. There are a lot of people that don't keep up with Disney news, that take their family there maybe once a year, maybe once every few years, haven't been because of COVID, or like, maybe I'll go.
Yep.
Let's do it. And a lot of them are showing up and they're like, what is this? They don't know. Especially if they've been before, they're going to be up for a rude awakening. And then the people who already don't know anything show up and realize that they just forked over many thousands of dollars, most likely, because they probably stayed on property. They thought they were really splurging. Show up and say, oh, well, now I got to pay essentially an extra, possibly $40 a person extra per day, plus parking, plus if I flew in potentially $250 for my family to get to and from the airport on a bus. Like, what?
Yeah. It just adds so much to what it was a few years ago.
Yeah. And I will say this system is not like super complex, but it is just complex enough that it's going to be frustrating for some people just to work it, and the fact that they're paying for it just to work it. Whereas, say, for instance, you're going to pay more, technically, to do Universal's version of FastPass, right? Or their paid system.
You will pay more.
You will pay more. But here's my point in this is there's no complexity to it. Once you've paid for it, if you pay unlimited, you go to the front of the line whenever you want. If you pay the regular, you go to each attraction whenever you want. You don't have to set times or anything else. You go to whichever one you want.
If Disney offered a pay like Universal, what would they charge for it? Like Universal, you can go to the line whenever you want.
They would stay competitive.
I mean, they have a version of it. It's called a VIP tour.
Right, that's what I'm saying. That's what they want people to keep doing.
Well, that's not the same thing because Universal has a VIP tour too.
Yeah, I mean, that's the other thing that I know that the VIP tour guides aren't happy about. When we did ours, Homer was like, I wish FastPass never comes back, because even in the VIP tour, you have to go through the FastPass line for basically every ride. You don't get to skip the FastPass line.
Right.
Yeah.
Which kind of... anyway.
Well, and there's, two other categories that use this line still? The DAS, which is the disability.
Right.
And I guess Rider Swap would also be one that uses it, which is probably doesn't clog much up at all, really, either one of those. Yeah. I'm just curious as to how they figure how many lightning lanes they allow per time period, I guess, or slot.
Well, it's based on the ratios. And did you not watch the Defunct Land special on FastPass history and how it works, John? I mean, come on.
Yeah, I did see that. But my thing is, okay, so for example, when I waited in line at Pirates, it was posted 50, it took 12. Mm-hmm. The Lightning Lane, there was not any available for it at that time, but when I look at the Lightning Lane, there is literally no line during that time period. During that exact same time period, there's literally no line, yet there's also no availability. So what are they basing it on now? It doesn't sound like it's the same.
I mean, it's all about when those Lightning Lane people show up. Probably matters too. Yeah. At what part of the window do they show up?
Like we talked about too, post fireworks, tons of people bum rush the lightning lane line.
Yeah.
Because they were watching the fireworks, and then they go running after their lightning lane.
If they have their return time, their hour.
Yeah. Which happened to me.
I just feel like they could probably space it better. Like I said, I don't know what they currently base it on, but I feel like they could space it a little better, and maybe it would be better because you would have more times available and people would enjoy it more. But I don't know if that's what they're after.
Yeah. Well, that transitions us into our short segment at the end, which is if you're going to have to pay for Genie Plus and Lightning Lane, we've now had to do it a few times.
Yeah.
I think after that, what are any new tips, any best ways, what's the strategies, anything changed in your opinion after a couple of trips using it?
One thing I would say is complain or talk to the guest experience team frequently.
I don't think that's how to better use it, but go ahead.
It is because, for one, voice your frustration with them because they write it down or they send it in. At least that's what they tell you that they do. So I complained multiple times, and they're like, "Yep, we'll report that to the team that works on it."
So let me ask you this: what do you realistically hope to accomplish here by what you've complained about?
Improvements, because I mentioned
but
specific
what?
things. I mentioned specifically modify. They need to modify. That's the major thing for me. Modify. They need to.
But they don't even let you choose times.
Right. That's the
other thing.
They need to be able to have multiple times, and when you refresh and you grab one, don't have it immediately drop because somebody else grabbed it or whatever. Like the old FastPass Plus, you had like a short window of time where if you snagged one that you found at a good time, that you had a chance to complete the booking of it or whatever you want to call it, grabbing it. You know what I'm talking about. And with Lightning Lane, it's frustrating as heck when you find a great time that pops up for a Peter Pan or something, and you try to grab it and it changes it to a later time because it's no longer available.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
That is the number. I mean, they did that. Remember, they had a glitch where that happened for a little while with FastPass, and everybody freaked out. Where by the time you clicked it, it was gone. And I think they did that for a minute with dining reservations. It works better if you just hold it, and then release it.
Right.
And it actually gives people more chance to actually get something they want because somebody else is holding 3 good times when they first refresh. They pick one, and then those 2 go back into the pool, and then a few minutes later, somebody else is getting a good time.
Yep.
So, that's frustrating, especially now that we know through the grapevine that there are drops, and you just have to be quick fingers at those drop times if you're going to get the drops. That's not like the old one where you get the drop right at the time that the same day drops are, and then you can sort of sit there and be like, all right, am I going to make this? Do I want to do it? Or there's no decision. You don't have time to decide.
Click,
You just...
Because even if you are quick fingers, you may lose it anyway, just because it doesn't matter.
I haven't run into losing a time when I was using it.
When I say lose a time, you hit refresh. It shows you a time right there on the screen. You click on the time, and then it loads up. Would you like to confirm this time? So say it's 2:00 in the afternoon, and all of a sudden a test track pops up, and you're like, "Oh crap, I can get test track," and it says 2:30, and you hit 2:30, and it says, "Would you like?"
10 p.m.
It says, "Great,
or 8
10 p.m." Yeah, 10 p.m. for test track, and you're like, "Well, that's not what I selected."
I haven't run into that.
And I literally showed the lady the guest experience team, and that's why she gave me a big thunder, because I showed her. I was like, look, right here. I got one at 5 p.m. and I clicked it and it showed at 8:30. And it's like, I've been doing this all day, and I click it and it goes to 8:30. So she just was like, all right, I'll just give you one for anytime use. But again, I'm not saying that's what they'll do. I'm not saying they'll do that, but I'm saying just complain, because that's the only way we're going to get improvements over time.
So the other thing to note is there are some drops. So there is opportunity to just keep refreshing and hopeful that you'll get something, even if it says it's sold out.
Yeah. Even if it's sold out, right? Yeah, I mean, keep refreshing, and I think the best way to do that is to click on the attraction you want, and then I think you go down to Lightning Lane and click that, and it sort of keeps that attraction
fresh.
so
It goes straight to it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it keeps it on the list where you can keep tapping and checking times for that particular attraction rather than having to click and scroll for it, you know.
One thing I've noticed is if you feel like you've lost out, like it's all of a sudden, it's early in the morning, you're trying to do your first one, and all of a sudden there's no more times left, still be persistent, because there's been times pop up several minutes later, even half an hour later.
Yeah.
Even closer on up to 8 o'clock that I've been able to see them. For some of the more popular ones still pop up if you're just persistent. There's no rhyme or reason to it. I don't know what's happening.
People cancel, I imagine, because they click it, they get it, and they're like, oh, well, it doesn't fit in our plans because we have a dining reservation or something, and forget it. It's
not like when they were doing boarding groups, and 701, sorry, you missed out. It's not quite the same. So
really, 7 in 10 seconds.
Yeah, you know what I mean. But
yeah,
701 pops up and it's gone. But one thing I was going to say is I've noticed there's pretty obvious ones that you're going to want to look for that seem to go early.
Yeah.
Since everybody's just able to choose one of each, basically, individual lightning lane and one regular lightning lane if they're using those, right?
Yep.
But there's a group that's like always the times go the fastest. When it comes to Magic Kingdom, it seems like if you just had to guess with Magic Kingdom, since it's kind of, it doesn't really, it's the one park right now that doesn't really have anything all that new.
Yeah.
What would you guess were, like, say, the top 3 that seem to go the fastest?
Jungle Cruise.
Yes.
Peter Pan.
Yep. And the other one is actually one of the individuals.
Oh.
Well, if you're going just regular, Thunder would probably be the next one, seems to be.
I was going to say Splash or Thunder. But again, I guess Splash is closed right now. Or has been.
Right now it's hard to say what the ratio will be with it. But Jungle Cruise, surprisingly, what I found when I've been looking at this is it goes early, but when it gets down to like the only times that are available are like 6 o'clock, people just like stop choosing it. They just like say, oh, I don't want to go in there that late. I guess they don't like the night experience, I guess. I don't know.
I was able to get Jungle Cruise late in the day. So for like 30 minutes out,
It's just like the early times that people want for that attraction for whatever reason.
Yeah.
I noticed that like everybody's second choice once they've gotten their first attraction seems to be Haunted Mansion. Like people love to get Haunted Mansion second.
I didn't see much Haunted Mansion at all, although my wife is not a big fan of it. And, we had a younger kid that we thought might be scared of it. So we didn't do Haunted Mansion this last time, but I didn't even see a lot of availability for it, though. So, yeah, it must be fairly popular.
Yeah. So I've kind of been looking at this, and I'm kind of thinking, okay, a strategy that I was thinking of using was if I use Genie Plus at, say, Magic Kingdom, I'm going to pick one of the ones that, for earlier that's harder to get, right? You're going to try to get that one as early as you possibly can. But not Pan. I'm thinking the better plan with Pan is to actually rope drop it because it doesn't fill up as fast early as, say, Mine Train. It depends on how bad you want Mine Train. Do you want to pay for Mine Train? Because it'll be available for a while. The individual lightning lanes usually don't run out as fast with the exception of Rise.
Sure. I would say, too, if you want to do Pan late in the day, do it during the fireworks because I had a lightning lane
it'll be
for the fireworks time and I showed up and there was nobody in line.
Yeah, when we were there in January, immediately after the fireworks, it still showed like 15 minutes as the actual wait time on touring plans. But by the time we got over there, it was not 15 minutes.
Yeah, the post fireworks crowd is they bum rush everything. Yeah.
But yeah, and individual lightning lane space does not sell early. I mean, you can see that 9 a.m. time slot available or 9 to 10 a.m. pretty early.
It's just an old, it doesn't have that long of a wait anyways usually, and the ride's kind of old to be an individual lightning lane.
Well, to be fair, it won't have it for very long. I mean, once Tron's up and running.
When you say very long, when are you estimating Tron to open?
Well, okay, maybe I shouldn't have said very long. It will not have it for a long time, let's put it that way. It will not have it for a long period. It will be changed at some point. Yeah. And the other parks are pretty obvious. What do you guys think? I actually think it's more important to get Slinky first if you're going to
Slinky.
get, let's just say, if you're going to get both that and individual Rise, I think Slinky's the priority.
That's the strategy. Yes.
Yeah.
Slinky and then buy Rise. Slinky and then buy Rise. That's the correct path.
Yeah. Or rope drop Slinky, I guess, is your other option.
You get Slinky, you buy Rise, you rope drop Mickey and Minnie's or Smuggler's Run, and then you go to base.
So
that's the strategy.
Other than doing, say, Slinky and Rise, after that, it's a lot harder to me at Hollywood Studios because there's not that many attractions. I got frustrated trying to keep finding stuff. I got Toy Story Mania after that.
I was able to get Star Tours with a 0-minute return time.
Star Tours, but I'm like, Smuggler's Run, Runaway Railway, it's harder to get those. I think you can probably get Tower and Rock and Roller Coaster a little bit easier, but I don't know. It's just, I think it's much harder to get everything at Hollywood Studios because there's less there and they're all good, solid attractions. So,
well, let's just assume you are going to rope drop it and do what Jason was talking about. You book Slinky, you buy Rise, rope drop Mickey and Minnie's. What are the odds, since it's still somewhat close proximity-wise, that you run over to Rockin' and Tower and do those before you get to any of your lightning lanes? I mean, if you haven't planned right.
That's what we did when I went with my son. Is he wanted to ride Rockin', so we roped it. We did it in the 30-minute extra hour time, and we got 3 rides on Rockin' and 1 ride on Tower in the first 30 minutes of the park.
But what are the odds of doing that with a family of 4 or 5? Or a group of, say 9, 8 or 9 people?
Oh, the problem with a group of 8 or 9 people is you get to rope drop, you walk in the gate, and you're like trying to keep people on track, and you're like, we're going to make the rope, and they're like, I got to go to the bathroom. Oh, look, Starbucks is open. Are we sure we want to go to that ride? Why are we stuck in the back here? I thought we got here early.
Yeah. Wait, where did so-and-so go? Oh, they're in the store. They're buying stuff. You can buy that on the way out, right? No? Okay.
Or what about if you try to take the strategy where you say, for instance, maybe you're still up early to do Genie Plus and you lag a little bit to make sure that, say, Slinky's a little later in the day and you just start stacking as time goes on?
I mean, that's what I got even not trying to lag. With just going straight to Slinky, I ended up with 2:30 p.m. Slinky Dog.
Right. So, you're trying to get an early Slinky, but you end up having to settle for one, so you changed how you planned your day pretty much. So
I mean, yeah, I got Slinky. I think it was more like 1 is what I got for Slinky, and then I just bought a 12:30 Rise. So, which to me, you either want a very early Slinky Dog or you want a early afternoon Slinky Dog. You don't want 10:30 a.m. because then you're going to miss rope at baseline.
Yeah, you have
got
to
make that rope. So in reality, what we were talking about earlier, the only one that you really, at some point in the day, might have, and it may not be, it depends on when you ride it, it might have a little bit of a longer line, would be doing Smugglers then, right? With that strategy.
Right, like if you're going full Star Wars and you don't care about Slinky, then yeah, go for Smugglers, because it gets that's a long wait.
It can be, but I mean, there's a point in the day where it's not going to be as bad. That's my point. I'm just saying that's probably the longest you would wait if you do.
It's a good standby line
Slinky.
too.
Yeah, if you buy Slinky, buy Rise, and rope drop Mickey and Minnie's, you're not going to wait. That's the only one you're really going to wait that long in, right? I mean, the rest of them.
It's not too bad, and if you can get the kids interested in the data pad thing, it's not as bad of a wait. But I always end up doing the data pad, and they're interested for like 1, and then afterwards. They don't care, and I'm still scanning stuff. So,
And realistically, depending on when your Slinky is, if you get it sort of early, once you've tapped in there, you might even get a decent Smuggler still. It's possible. Not likely, but possible.
All right. So, go ahead, John. One last point before we...
No, I was just going to say, are we going to say that it's really still potentially not worth it for Animal Kingdom and Epcot? It just kind of
I do not think it is worth it if your only destination in the day is Animal Kingdom or Epcot. If you are starting the day at Animal Kingdom or Epcot, it is worth it because you can stack your second park.
Right, in time to park up.
Yeah, that's another thing people should probably know if they don't. It's good, if you buy it, it's good for all the parks, if you can get to them.
Yeah. I did that one day, and stack some Magic Kingdom by the time I got there. I had something ready to go.
I have a few more points, but we got to wrap it up. So
Yeah, we'll give more points after we've done our March trips. It'll be interesting to see the difference. And I would say what might be a little bit of lower crowd time. It's a little my trip should be a little pre-spring break. So we will see. But otherwise, if you would like to check us out while we're not on the podcast and you want to read more about us, where would you find us?
well, we have Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. That is all at TWTM Podcast. We have a Spreadshirt store in which you can buy your exclusive TWTM merchandise. That is shop.spreadshirt.com/TWTM podcast. And we also have a YouTube channel. We would love for you to go out there and subscribe to that, because who knows, one day if challenges are possible again, we might actually do one live.
And you can visit our website if you'd like to find links to all those things and more, travelingwiththemouse.com. You can email us, podcast@travelingwiththemouse.com. And if you would like to book your own trip and need some assistance or guidance, you can use our travel agent friend of the show. Her name is Jill Dilbeck, and her email address is jilldilbeck@gmail.com.
So, for John and Adam, I am Jason. This has been Traveling with the Mouse, and we hope you will join us on our next trip. And don't forget to watch the Super Bowl.